really missed out on, I had called mysterious.
What? Come on. Oh, okay. I'm pretty sure the sound works now.
The sound works?
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know? Okay.
Okay, the sound works.
Okay.
So, Anthony. Okay. Welcome to Fjook Enterprises. This time with the sound working. I'm your host Fjook, and the disembodied voice with me this time that you can hear is
Anthony. Hello.
So, why don't we start at the beginning, and why don't you tell me how you came up with the idea for the electric maggots campaign?
How I came to the idea of the electric maggots campaign. I actually first started with Doverson and worked with that. I planned a bit of his background that he didn't remember his own past. At that time, I wasn't sure if it was going to be due to magic or just him being senile. I did want him to be over 100 years old and for him not to really know his true age. I did want him to have ambitions to become a deity. And one of the possible outcomes of the campaign was that he himself was going to be elevated to the level of deity.
And you had plans to figure out how to do that, right?
Well, first he was going to have the kingdom of the electric maggots and bring back his abandoned guild hall, bring it back to some notoriety. This is some celebrity. Bring it back to some of its past glories. Literally, when the new group of adventurers show up, you are informed that the last group that he had just selected had all been killed.
Was that premeditated?
That was premeditated. So I had...
What would have happened if we had resurrected the group that just got killed?
They would have told you how incompetent Doverson was and that he didn't prepare you to... He did not prepare them for this adventure. He didn't... The goblins in the area definitely were stronger, which you ended up finding out was due to a potion that was being given out with a deal between the local goblin chapter and a necromancer.
You really like your necromancers, don't you?
What do you mean? I like them.
Oh, David asked electric maggots, ?
Yeah, so I wanted something that was going to be embarrassing. So a realistic title that I thought of for Guildhall was the Electric Maggots. You guys had the chance of changing it, and
by the time I had the opportunity to change it, well, we'll get there when we get there. Keep going.
Yeah, so you guys had the possibility of changing the name, but there was a whole history that was found out by your character, by Mitrios. Opening up another document with that history.
You take very good notes.
I scribble a lot of things here and there on notebooks. So I have notes everywhere. So it's now just a matter of getting things. So the history that you had found out was so out of all the books that you had found in the guild hall, that your character had come to the following conclusions. That you believe that the Electric Maggots did not start as an adventurers guild. Some of the book had hinted that the guild had started as a small thieves guild, and that the town originally started as a small port and a few homes for thieves to gather to sell and trade information. There is no name provided in the books for the thief guild, if it had one. The order was formed about 600 years ago by the Prince Cole of Aflad. It's a dwarven kingdom, and as you find out in this campaign, there is a part that still exists to the north. The original name was the Order of the Order. So the original name of the order was the Order of Brothers of Aflad of Haliabrax. And the original purpose of the guild was to provide military and logistical support to the armies of Aflad and to build hospitals. To make a long story short, after 2 campaigns, the guild hall gets too big, takes over, and claims territory in their own right. And eventually, other rulers take over their land and reduce the name to the Electric Maggots.
Wasn't that partially as an insult?
Yes, as an insult to the guild. And this has to do to the fact that one of the guild leaders had literally executed a previous king in front of their children and forced their children to consume their father.
Oh, yeah, I forgot how
It got pretty dark.
dark the history was.
This is what happens when you ask me to come up with lore on the spot.
Yeah, I didn't ask for it on the spot. And you didn't come up with it on the spot either.
This was back and forth between you and I in a chat.
So, who did we originally start with?
So you originally started
As PCs. Who were the original PCs?
So you started off with list of PCs. So you originally started with Yogg, who was a changeling, Endon, who was an elf, Nylon, who was a human. We started with your character Nitrios, who was a human.
Wasn't Nylon an elf or half elf?
Oh yes, he was the elf elf. So your character Nitrios was a human, and to end it off, we had Mundi, who was a dwarf.
Mundy's player had work and school things, so he dropped off quickly.
So he started off for, I think, the first 3 episodes, maybe, and then kind of disappeared.
Nylon dropped off about
just before the halfway point.
So what was the first half of the game? I know the answer. I was there, but others might not.
Paper. So the first thing, I think it's important to start before the campaign starts, and that was how all you characters were gathered. And so I don't know if you remember how Nitrios was summoned.
I do, but go ahead.
No, it's your character.
Wasn't Nichio's old retired soldier who was working as basically hired hand of the town and the town drunk at the same time?
Yes, and you're heading for breakfast. And you got a rap at your door.
Didn't I try and see the face of the person and got really high perception?
I think your character had a 21 just passive perception, if I'm not mistaken.
No, wasn't that high.
It wasn't that high? But it was high enough.
What level did we start at? Level 2. Okay. So with Rogue Cleric, I'm going to do the math here, just give me a sec. That would be double my proficiency for 4, plus my wisdom, which would be 4. Yeah, I probably had a 21, you're probably right, 21 passive perception.
I remember you were proud of it. And so you had 21, so you were like, I see the face. And I'm like, no, you see what should be, where a face should be, is just the scrambled image. And it was an individual wearing just all red gown. And so he handed you a letter, and the letter offered you adventure, and you just had to agree to it and sign your name. Which you begrudgingly had done, or did. As did other characters begrudgingly do that as well.
Nyland did it for protection.
Yep. And had he played that, the people who were trying to find him would have come up, but he didn't come back, so that was written off.
David says I sold my soul.
Hmm?
David says I sold my soul.
No one sold their soul. You were summoned for adventure, and adventure you got.
Do you have a copy of the original contract?
Yes, I do.
Why don't you read out the Adventurers Guild contract?
So the contract states that 10% of the values of goods acquired during missions are due to the guild. There is a blank, and it says, is the appraiser of all goods brought back from a mission? So Doverson would put in his name, but characters were free to put what they wanted. Third bullet was, if you depart from this plane, your corpse is property of the guild and will be donated to the Wizards College. The fourth is, while on missions, the guild hall will pay 5 silver per day until you return or decease. Fifth bullet, you will have health and dental coverage at a local temple of your choosing. If your temple does not offer these services, sucks to be you. Sixth bullet, although you are a member of the guild, it is forbidden to mention it until you have completed the initiation. 7, my name is Lord Doverson. I am to be put into your will and acquire 50% of your goods, land, etc. If you have no will, this can be considered it. 8th bullet, I will never directly cause harm to you. 9, you are never allowed to kill or harm another member of the guild, even accidentally. Or a bounty of 1,000 gold pieces will be placed on for your head. Number 10, and this is the final one. In the event of a civil war, you will swear fealty to, in this order, the guild, Lord Doverson, your god, and bears, the most grand of creatures.
And Doverson was
a character who refused to sign.
And Doverson was very, for some reason, Doverson was very willing to negotiate the contract.
Yeah. Yeah, he just wanted members to his guild.
Because I believe I said that my body belongs to my god and only my god.
Yep.
and I was the only one that modified it. That's the only thing I modified. And then I went out of my way to make sure all my property was actually someone else's.
Well, Endon's contract was very different. His contract was he just wrote on the back of a piece of paper going, well, Dorverson wrote on the back of a piece of paper going, you are an independent contractor. The Guild and Lord Dorverson owe you nothing for any mission you choose to join. Although you say there is no need for a contract, one is being written. In the case I forget or require this contract is shown to the authorities. This contract was orally agreed and acknowledged by both parties.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
This is Endon. This is the chaos he causes.
I'm sure David has characters that cause chaos, even with his newer group that's better than his old group. Because all my money went into, what was it, the local bar and growing the bar and buying him more land.
No, so you acquired the local hotel at the end.
And gave it to the bar.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I also paid for upgrades for the bar.
Yes, you gave everything to...
Not everything.
Well, you gave quite a bit to yes, Tokri of Clan Mitroborn. And after your death/disappearance, you probably renamed the hotel after you.
So we went on a few missions, learned about some necromancers. One slipped through our fingers.
No, that was the same one. That was the same necromancer that was throughout the entire campaign. Was that same one person?
We sent some goblins to the Draconic Mountains.
Yep. You sent it to where you knew the dragons would be, and you basically fed the dragons and the kobolds.
And then we traveled to Ordeep.
Yes. You were guarding a prince for his wedding.
That seems to be the next point of interest is Ordeep. So why don't you start us off with us entering Ordeep?
So Ordeep was a city built inside a mountain, and it was lit by just the lichen and a small crack that led outside. Ordeep has its name for a reason. There's a huge mine inside the mountain that mines ores. And then as you arrived, you were there to protect and provide guard services for the prince until you safely delivered him at the local temple for his wedding. You want me to keep on going?
Yeah.
So after you dropped him off, Metrios inquired about who else was in attendance and if a certain king.
I really wish I could have got. I really wish the king was coming.
Yeah, but you were told that no, it was going to be his son that was going to be in attendance.
Did he ever have more kids?
Arriving the next day.
Did King Rocco ever have more kids?
Not in game.
I know not in game.
Or not within stories. So, like I say, if we were to continue that story, then we can develop it later. Like if we come back to it, we'll develop it later. But right now, I prefer to leave things open-ended just in case. So if a future story makes more sense for him to have kids or not to have kids, then we'll go down and face that when we need to.
I'm just asking because the future of Tavir really depends on an heir.
Yep, well, king, yeah, strong king.
And, well, why don't you explain what happened to the twin Salient?
So so you were told on the second day that he would be arriving. So you found lodging for the first night, and the party got very rowdy that night. I think Endon literally had sex with. So Endon had a girlfriend in game, and his girlfriend disappeared. He didn't bother paying any attention to that. And he decided to have sex with a drunk dwarf. Your character went to bed, completely forgetting that. Well, you were concentrated on your new mission, and didn't realize that your new partner had been kidnapped during the night.
I noticed in the morning. I just didn't care.
Yeah. So that next morning, when the Prince of Tavir arrived, Nitrios had acquired a potion from the necromancer.
Not directly, but yeah.
Yeah, not directly, but yeah, through conflict, and realized that it was an acid of some sort. That if he dipped his dagger, that it would automatically kill.
I didn't know it would automatically kill.
Nitrios realized it would be this gory. What happened? Because you slit his throat and then stabbed him in the heart, if I'm not mistaken?
No, I nat 20'd hit. I nat 20'd.
Yep.
I think I just stabbed him in the head and stabbed him in the heart.
Yes, that's what it was. You stabbed him in the head, and then, not realizing how strong of an acid this was, his head caved in and his heart cavity caved in. Then Nitrios was immediately arrested. Some of the party members wanted to save him.
Some? Who else besides Endon wanted to save him? Anthony? I think I lost Anthony. Okay.
Yeah, my phone went, or my laptop went kaput. Tech knowledge. Yay!
So, you said some party members? Who wanted to save me besides Endon?
Well, I think it was, well, there were only the three of you at the time, but I think if it would have been more realistic, or if there were more realistic chances of everyone escaping alive, I think Endon would have, Young would have contributed as well, but managed to convince Endon that it wasn't wise. Or no, Nitrios convinced Endon that it wasn't wise.
And then Endon's like, screw you, old man, I'm going to rescue you anyways.
Yep. As your knee drives off to jail. So, long story short,
I'm going to have, Anthony,
what?
Can you turn down your sound somehow?
It's because I'm on my phone right now for the next few seconds until I get my laptop restarted.
I think, hopefully that, I turned down my sound. Hopefully that helps. But, well, okay. So, side tangent, while you're here, and waiting for your computer to boot up. Back in either 04, 03, I don't remember the exact year. I was invited to a game with way too many players. I think the GM was new to GMing, and he decided that he would only those that survived the adventure would come back to the next game. So I decided, since I rolled really well, to make a wizard. Now I decided to make this wizard a human, and I in 3.5 there were age penalties, so I gave him middle-aged. I gave him those penalties, and with the penalties became bonuses in wisdom, the intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. And then I gave him old age penalties, which were cumulative with the middle age penalties. And then I took feats so that I could wear chainmail. I still had a penalty to casting with the chainmail on because the armor penalty fail. And equipped him with a shovel, a donkey, and a cart, and went to investigate the mines. There was a bunch of other characters, but the only one that matters is David's female knight. I think it was a female. So we go into the cave. We're fighting skeletons. The old man with the shovel is actually managing to down them. And the knight, trying to be all heroic, is Tessa. Do you remember the old man's name, David? You obviously remember your knight's name was Tessa Riverstar. So Tessa was fighting a skeleton, and they were both trading blows, not hitting each other. The old man bull rushed the skeleton, shoved Tessa aside, down the skeleton, and then turned the corner of the next room and got hit with a flaming pickaxe. If I recall from what David told me, Tessa picked up what she assumed was a magical shovel and continued to and used it or something like that. I'm not sure. And that's the story of the old man, who is one of my. Even though I only played him for one session because he died and I wasn't invited back because the GM had too many players, he sticks out in my memory as one of my most favorite characters to play. That could be because David is a bard in real life. And that's just, I believe David has used the old man in his games, and I used the old man at the start of my Gotrek jungle game as the wizard that was sending you guys, that teleported the adventurers away. Now you're quiet. Oh, that's my fault. I turned down the volume.
Okay, is this better?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, is there anything else about the old man story?
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention the death of Nitrios. So this was a dwarven underground community, and to say they were racist is putting it, or speciesist is putting it lightly, because Endon managed to convince a homeless human to follow him into the jail, and managed to break Nitrios out of prison and put the homeless man into the jail cell. And then the execution was called. And brought out before everyone was this homeless man, and Lord Doverson was sitting in the attendance, like, laughing, and Marcel's new character, Soroyenkop's like, why are you laughing? What's going on? And everyone else is watching, everyone else thinks that, well, the normal execution, the execution as planned. And so they're listing, Nitrios, traitor of Tavir, traitor of Orti. As Nitrios is escaping, this homeless man is pleading, and his final words were something along the lines of, my God, for the last 15 years I've lived here, and you still haven't even recognized my face. And chop. And then after that happened, then we had the big climactic end of Arc 1, which was you finding out how powerful Doverson was, versus a necromancer that both could cast area spells, and they both didn't like the royalty for different...
Why didn't the game's over? It doesn't matter now. Why? What was the necromancer's goal?
He was told to kill everyone by his deity. He was getting powers from his deities, much like Yogg. Because both Yogg and him they both had an instrument that had the same effect. That the more people that they killed with it, the more powerful it became.
So
because Yogg's weapon had at least 2 upgrades during the course of the campaign.
Yeah. Well, considering my character tried to save the entire royal family, which was a king, queen, the prince getting married, and his younger brother.
Yep.
And only got the younger brother out. Was that a success?
That was a success, considering that Endon had jammed the door on the other side, the door that you want to escape from. Was jammed by Endon after, I think, your new character, Soroyenkop, I kicked him out of the wedding for wanting to be right at the front.
Not wanting to be right at the front, wanting to be where the prince was supposed to stand.
Yep. Endon, the agent of chaos. And that's how Arc 1 had. So basically, Yogg had the choice of striking down striking down Doverson or striking down the Necromancer, and he went with striking down the Necromancer.
Kind of wish he would have done both.
He could have.
But Yogg was loyal to Doverson.
Yes, and then Yogg, after killing the Necromancer, was summoned and told never to do that again to one of her followers.
Oh, yeah. You had a female in the rule.
Yes. And had you explored that more, you would have found out that she was just a regular human who usurped his title. And that Doverson was part of her installation.
Later, David. So
Is there anything you want to know about or anything that you have questions for me about the campaign that still exists? Or that I can answer?
And then there was a Civil War.
Yes.
With having characters on both sides.
Yes. Just because I wasn't sure who, like, where their true allegiance would lie.
And then James joined.
Yes.
And totally changed the direction of the game.
Yes. Which I'll be happy to have him at the beginning of a new campaign. Because I think, and he not only had his own 2 characters join the campaign, he also introduced a brand new NPC to the campaign, a dragon named Triskel, who was trying to escape the Shadowfell, or as we were calling it, the Land of Shadows in the campaign.
And stuff happened. People got flung through time.
Well, not necessarily through time, through dimensions. You found... So, Doverson, and this is the reason why his age was all over the place, he had discovered a stone, or he had created a stone that he could create another dimension in that would connect them to all the other planes. And so you were basically planes hopping a bit.
Yeah. Okay. Wait. Does that mean Roy and Carv and Dolison had adventures together?
Yes. And
that neither of them remember?
With a dragon as well. But I'm pretty sure all 4 of you may have parted at certain points of that story.
Hopefully very quickly from the dragon.
It wanted nothing to do with you.
That must have... Did Triskel also get a memory wipe?
Yep. So all 4 people, basically, they advance to 10 years into the future. They age those 10 years, but they lose the memory of the previous 5. So basically, all of them are pre-campaign.
That's good.
So Sir Royankov, when he wakes up, he will not, he'll wake up in Orsdeep, and Orsdeep is still Orsdeep. Whereas Doverson is going to wake up, and his guild hall has now been claimed by one of the other PCs named Endon, and has turned it into a casino and has changed the guild hall to the Kingdom of Hell. Although the player for Endon has stated that he is willing to give Doverson back a room, or his room.
Would Doverson take over leadership of the Electric Maggots?
I think that would be a discussion between him and Yogg, because I know both of them have interest in collecting more power. But I think Doverson's going to need a bit of time to completely understand what the hell just happened in the last 10 years.
And my other character, who basically wanted to just fuck with everyone, that was her initial goal, was to fuck with everyone. Mercadia, she made she made Flamestone a very defensible city.
Yep.
With everyone being able to train it, so that even if they do get through the walls, they'll have to fight for every inch of the city. And she also made an expansion fort to the south. I could see Flames Tongue taking over that whole mountain range eventually, the way Macadia left it.
They could.
It seems logical to me.
They could probably still take land in the south. Like, the South Nation isn't that strong. And it's still quite divided.
Oh, yeah. Several of the council members are going to be sold back to the town if the town wants to buy them.
Probably not.
Oh.
What happened to your council members? They got abducted by pirates. Sold for money.
Because Macadia just basically, well, she basically threw herself into her research.
Yep.
And for your next game,
yes,
Macadia is long dead.
Yep.
But
pirates have the islands nicknamed after her.
That is interesting.
Because they're officially the Mercutian Islands, but pirates call them the Mercadian Islands.
Well, she did she did make the pilots one of the strongest navies in that area.
Yep.
And gave them all the magical trinkets she found until she decided to dive into the research. The way I see it is there's a small group of people who call themselves a disciple of Macadia who are trying to enact Macadia's last goal, with my new character being one of them.
Yes.
Is that how you see it?
Oh, I see it along those lines. Because there are other events that are going to go on, but yes, I think the pirates and, like Mercadia, I think that's a good synopsis for your character as well, that she's going to be following in her footsteps of creating chaos. Agent chaos.
So while there would be other disciples, there would be so widespread trying to achieve little pieces of the big puzzle that I can't really rely on them as allies.
No. But they may not also have the same, they may not be on the same, or they may have not received the same messages that you have. Remember, you have very, very specific.
Yes.
You have six very vague targets or goals to achieve.
Yes.
And they're up for interpretation. But even as I have told you, there's a possibility that one goal could achieve your goal. It might take a 5 or 6, or possibly none, because hell, maybe your deity is just screwing around with you.
Yeah.
And even if you achieve everything, you might just be like standing there and be like, and now what? And then just hear laughter in the back of your head.
Yeah.
I think that would be a little too dickish of a move.
I actually honestly see Loki being up for this. It's your game and you control the gods, but I see Loki being up for this because, especially if he traps himself, depending on which side of the barrier he's on, he could be the most powerful being.
But like I've also told you, he's a lesser deity in my universe.
Yes. And if he wants to weaken the other deities to gain power, this goal would be a good way to do that.
Exactly, because as you know, that this universe,
deities can
interact in the regular daily lives of their patrons, and that
sometimes
deities get strength. Deities get strength from the number of followers that they have.
they also can get absorbed by other deities.
Yes.
Well,
So, a very active pantheon.
I wonder if Nike got absorbed by Dax.
Possibly, and I know, like I said, that Yogg and Doverson both wanted titles, so maybe they're working together. Like after the events of the campaign, maybe they're trying to take a position.
Yeah, this would be Macadia's last middle finger to Doverson.
Yep.
And if she could have a will, she would time it so right after he gains godhood, the wall falls.
Well, like I said, one of the possible repercussions is that some of the deities become mortals.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk to you later.
Okay, so here's to good evening.
Yeah.
Or good afternoon. Talk to you later.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's no more questions for this upcoming campaign. I'm going to have something ready for probably mid-August for everyone, probably like a 2-pager with
cool.
the locals history. And
I'll probably have more questions when I see that, because
Yep.
my character is a researcher.
Yep. So you may already have some advanced knowledge on this.
And you might decide you don't want to give me any advanced knowledge. Only time will tell.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Bye.
Bye.